The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to today's webinar, How Journyx Integrates with Other Applications to Make Everyone's Job Easier. My name is Carrie Foster. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Journyx. I'll be your moderator today, and our Director of Sales, Brian Maxson, and Director of Product Management, Meredith Zacharitz, will be presenting today's webinar. And indeed, we'll be talking about how Journyx makes integrations will make it easier for everyone, from those who are processing timesheets to those who are entering time, filling out their timesheets and submitting them, how it makes everyone's job easier. And we integrate with various different types of business systems, which Brian will go through today. But very quickly, I just wanted to ask you a quick poll, which I will launch now. And if you could select one, you can select however many of these apply to your business. And in the meantime, I'm just going to go through a couple of housekeeping guidelines. So we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions at all, just go ahead and pop those into the questions box, which is in your GoToWebinar panel. And we are also recording this webinar, so if you do need to leave early, then we can send the recording to you when it's available. So I am going to go ahead and close this poll out. Great, thank you very much. And I will now pass it over to Brian to kick things off.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Carrie. So guys, first of all, thanks for joining the call today. This is Brian Maxson. I probably have worked with many of you over the years. But what I'm going to do is, as Carrie mentioned, is talk a little bit about how we can integrate with some of the other business systems that you guys are already using to make your lives a little bit easier. So, from everybody that's pretty much on this call, which I think is mostly our existing customers, the 5 main reasons that people need to be able to track time and expense data predominantly is for measuring their cost on projects, doing project profitability analysis, maybe even comparing cost to budget. So all around project cost accounting. But also maybe equally as important is for billing their customers for the time that people work on their projects. Of course, being able to accurately and on time pay their employees. For your folks on the call from like a PMO office or project managers, being able to do your resource optimization, your resource management on projects is also important. And then 5th is really around compliance, and that's more around nonprofit type customers, maybe customers that might be have DCAA requirements. So tracking time against government projects, defense contracts is also very important as well. So everybody on the call probably understands that tracking this data is critical for success. However, the concept is that it's time to work smarter and not harder. So what do we really mean by that? So working smarter is utilizing all the tools that you guys already use on a daily basis and integrating that in with your time and expense tracking processes to make sure that your data is more accurate, it's done in a more timely fashion, and it's just easier for everybody across the board. So some of the main benefits of integrating with other business solutions is, it makes it easier and more efficient for timesheet processing. So you're not having to, manually get data in, both systems, not doing dual entry. You're not having to do a lot of manual processing of that data, like overtime calculations, or you manually feeding that back into the ERP or payroll solution. It's a lot quicker and easier for people to do time entry for end users, and Meredith will touch mostly about the end user experience towards the end with some pretty cool tools that we're excited about. And they just less error for more accuracy. So again, eliminating or reducing dual entry, manual entry of the hours into your ERP solution, your payroll solution, having to do overtime calculations manually. Just saves you a lot of time, a lot of effort, and hopefully reduces the amount of errors that are being done that are just natural from doing a sort of a manual intervention around time and expense tracking. So the first solution I wanted to talk to you guys about is what we call Journyx Account Link. And many years ago now, we actually started with a Microsoft Dynamics GP solution as an accounting ERP to build the background of Journyx Account Link. And basically, Journyx Account Link is a bi-directional integration tool with Microsoft Dynamics or also with QuickBooks. And so by bi-directional, what I mean is that we can pull in all of the business data from your ERP solution. So things like your projects, your tasks, all of your pay types, your bill types, all of your employees and their related attributes. We can pull all of that in from your ERP solution directly into Journyx so that you don't have to re-enter that data manually. You can also then control accessibility to the projects and tasks on the timesheet with this integration. As people track their time and expense data within Journyx, and that gets sent through an approval workflow process, we can then take that approved time and expense data and send it back into your accounting or ERP solution. So all of that cost accounting that you have to do, all of your customer billing, we can really help automate a lot of that workflow process by having that bi-directional integration between your accounting system and Journyx. And again, whether that's Microsoft Dynamics, that's Microsoft Dynamics GP, NAV, in some cases AX and SL, but again, also for our QuickBooks customers out there, Account Link works the same way. One of our existing customers is Align Communications, who I'm not sure if they're on this call or not, actually. They are a Microsoft Dynamics NAV customer. And before, the older system they were using before Journyx was very painful and time consuming for the end users. The user experience wasn't very good. It didn't integrate well with their ERP solution, so they were doing a lot of manual entry, making a lot of errors, doing data entry back into the NAV. And it took them 5 to 10 business days to get their billing processed. Whereas with using Journyx in an integrated solution, the amount of time that we've saved them is 40% of that time by just having that integration with NAV. It really has helped them to identify missed billing opportunities since they were able to track things more accurately. They weren't missing anything by manually keying stuff into their accounting system. So it saved them quite a bit of time and effort by simply just integrating Journyx with NAV. The second big opportunity, in addition to integrating with your accounting solution, is integrating with payroll. So anybody out there on the call that is using Journyx to track time for payroll, there's a lot of manual processing sometimes that's involved with doing that. Not only is it hard enough by itself to be able to get people to track their time, do it in a timely fashion and do it accurately, but trying to get that submitted through workflow process, making sure that any overtime calculations are done for any of your non-exempt employees, and then making sure that data flows back through to your payroll solution can be pretty time consuming and take a lot of time and effort. So what the Journyx has a feature or tool that we call our Payroll Rules Engine. And it allows us to be able to take the time that people enter into Journyx and run it through any payroll calculations that you might have. And then we support many of the different standard payroll solutions like ADP, Paychex, OT Pro. If you're using things like GP or QuickBooks to process payroll, the Payroll Rules Engine allows you to create an export out of Journyx that is properly formatted for that payroll solution. that contains all of your hours, your time off hours for your salaried employees, all the hours and overtime calculations for your hourly employees, and puts that into one file that you can then just turn around and import into your payroll provider. And it really just saves you having to do all of those manual calculations and manual data entry into the payroll solution. The other thing that's relative and related to that is our data validation rules engine or feature within Journyx, which some of you may use already within your use of Journyx. But basically what the data validation rules component allows you to do is build business rules that can help you validate the time that's being entered into the system. So it'll help fix a lot of the errors up front and hopefully reduce the amount of back-end corrections you guys are having to do before you're trying to process that data through the payroll rules engine and get that into payroll. That same thing applies for any of your company holidays as well. So integrating with your holiday schedule, uploading that into Journyx just saves the end user from having to enter that data into the system as well. The third integration point I want to talk to you guys about is around any of our folks out there that use Microsoft Project for project scheduling and resource planning. So Journyx Project Link is our integration that ties Journyx together with Microsoft Project. Your project managers can sync their WBS or project files from Microsoft Project directly into Journyx. So all of your projects, your subtasks, all of your resources, their assignments, those can all flow in from Microsoft Project into Journyx. And those are going to be the tasks and the projects that people have access to on their timesheet. As people track their time, send that through an approval workflow process, we can then send that approved time back into Microsoft Project as actual work. So it will update your project plans and allow your project managers to do a better job of project estimation, forecasting, resource planning by getting that actual work directly into their project plans without them having to pull that data manually out of Journyx to update those plans. The other feature that we have with Project Link that's pretty cool, especially for any of our customers that use Microsoft Project in combination with their ERP solution, is the ability to not only bring in those WBS project schedules from Microsoft Project, allow employees to track that time and send it back as actual work into Microsoft Project, but Project Link also allows you to then reparent all of that time underneath the core main project from your ERP solution so that you can roll that time back into your accounting solution for all your project cost accounting and client billing, allowing you to basically keep in sync your financial data in your ERP and your project management data in your project scheduling tool. So this is a very unique solution for Journyx with Project Link to be able to tie those two pieces of the organization together, because a lot of times those are so out of sync because of just timing of when that hits the books, month-end closing, versus project managers that need that data to be updated much more quickly. So Project Link is a pretty cool tool for being able to integrate Journyx with Microsoft Project and your accounting ERP solution. Good use case, Iridium Satellite, one of our customers that is actually another GP, Dynamics GP customer. Before, they were using Journyx and they were integrating that with GP, and they were doing that for financial and payroll purposes. So what was happening is that their PMO office, their data was completely out of sync because the finance department wasn't providing them with that actual work time until they process it through all their financial processes and close their books on a monthly basis. So because of that, the project schedules were quite a bit out of sync with that financial data. Because that actual work was out of sync, it was then very hard for them to do accurate and reliable resource planning and optimization in Microsoft Project because the availability of the resources wasn't really known based on the actual work that they were doing. So after implementing Project Link, their PMO office basically has allowed Iridium to pull in, like I mentioned, all of those project plans and resources and resource assignments from Microsoft Project into Journyx, track that time against the tasks, roll that up through the WBS, send that time back as actual work into your project plan. But then we're actually also able to roll that up underneath the core project within GP, as they were doing before, so that they can do all of their financial analysis, project cost accounting, and things like that. So this has been a very valuable tool for Iridium because it's allowed their financial department and their PMO office to really tie their information together and keep all that data in sync. Journyx Report Link, some of you guys may already use Report Link, but it's really for all of our Excel users out there. Report Link allows us to connect Excel directly with the Journyx database. So you can pull in a number of different time and expense feeds directly from Journyx into Excel. And that can be pivot table feeds, it can be worksheet-based feeds. And what it allows you really to do is pull in any sort of data that you want. So let's say that you use 2 or 3 reports on a pretty regular basis. You could almost build those reports as like Excel templates. And instead of having to run the report in Journyx, export it to Excel, remassage the data every time you want to update your report, you could build those reports in Excel and use Report Link to click one button and update all those reports at one time, because what it's really doing is it's updating the underlying data source or data feed for all of those reports that's coming out of Journyx. So it's pretty cool reporting feature that we offer, especially for you folks that like to use Excel to do some additional reporting analytics. We also, for any of our Microsoft people out there that are using Power BI, it really also just gives us a data to be able to sync that as a data feed through to Power BI. So you have even more powerful and granular reporting by utilizing that solution for reporting purposes. The last thing I will touch on around integrations before I turn it over to Meredith is that in addition to using some of the out-of-box integrations that we have, the Journyx professional services teams to be able to customize any integration that you might need, Journyx does have a pretty robust and documented and published API. So any of our existing customers have the ability to use our API to push or pull data in and out of Journyx. So that's going to help you integrate with any of your other ERP solutions, project management solutions, payroll, HR. That might include Sage, SAP, Acumatica, Jira software, which we actually just implemented here at Journyx and are integrating with. So the API just opens up the possibility for you guys to integrate with other solutions you might be already using outside of some of our standard off-the-shelf type integrations. So at this point, I will go ahead and turn it over to Meredith, and Meredith will talk to you guys a little bit about our integration with Exchange and our suggested time entries.
Thanks, Brian. So Brian was talking about our API, and a major focus of our both current and future development right now when it comes to our API in terms of what we're expanding and improving for ease of use is on this suggestions feature for timesheets. And some of you have probably seen it or demoed it, but others may not have seen exactly how this works. And so suggestions offers a way for Journyx to fill out your timesheet for you based on information that you either add or things that you're doing in other apps throughout your day. Now, one thing I want to reiterate here with suggestions is that it's not simply imported data from other apps. So we're not just sucking data in and saying, okay, here are your calendar entries, good luck with that. We actually apply AI and machine learning to what comes in from these other sources. And so what happens is Journyx learns over time how to pick the right projects and codes and all the other things that you have to fill out on your timesheet. Most people don't, bring things in, have one tracking code. You track cost categories, you track projects, you might track bill status, et cetera. And so the idea here is that the data comes in and we look at it and we say, okay, this is what we think that this should be, that these are the selections. And as an end user, you edit those when they're not correct. And then we learn and we save that edit and we say, okay, we were wrong there. We'll apply the percentages. And so over time, your suggestions will begin to appear with the correct selection. So you can just simply add them and move on. So obviously, if the suggestions come in and they're accurate, and you can just say, yep, that's my timesheet, I'm good. The way that suggestions become more valuable over time is that we have to add more of those third-party apps that you use as potential sources for data, because we'd like to capture as much of what you do during the day for you so that you're not filling out your timesheet manually at the end of the day or at the end of the week, as so many do. So in addition to just adding different apps, so we need plenty of sources, plenty of data, the apps that you use every day to feed those suggestions. We're also working with a variety of ways to connect to those apps. And so that's what I really want to talk with you about today. And these three examples here are examples of different ways that we are using technologies to connect our suggestions with these third-party apps. So the first example is our out-of-the-box, released in version 11, Microsoft Exchange calendar integration, and it pulls information from both the calendar and Outlook tasks. This integration is like a really robust connection that uses, the Azure authentication and Office 365 single sign-on. So if you're logged into Office 365, you're totally good to go. Now, this type of connection does require some IT setup in the Journyx system. So it's not like your end users can go, yep, I want to do this now, and they can set up that Azure authentication. But it is, very powerful in that the Azure authentication can be used and expanded to include access to more of the Office 365 platform. So it's pretty cool what it can do. Now then we move on to something that we're about to roll out for beta testing, and that is our Journyx timer. And we're going to offer that initially as a Chrome browser extension. And it's just a simple browser extension that anyone can install. With the beta testing, we'll give you access, of course, but when it goes public, anybody can pull it down just like any browser extension. And as long as you're logged in to Journyx in that browser, you can enter a comment and time your work. And so if you you get smart about this and you start adding keywords to that comment, that may be a close match to projects and codes and things in your timesheets. Suggestions is going to pick up on those keywords and then make intelligent selections for you. So when you, stop the timer, you have a suggestion. It may have already picked all the correct selections for you, and you can save and go on. So this is something where we can offer, end users more direct access to something that'll allow them to, if they're the kind of people who like to time what they're doing, this is a real handy tool, and it'll automatically pop that in your timesheet. Now, the last example here, Zapier, I don't know how many of you've heard of this, but this is a data connection. These are data connection tools. This is a platform that might be described as task or workplace automation tools. And so, you may have heard of Zapier, or there's another popular one that's called IFTTT. And a lot of the big software providers, including Microsoft and Google, offer these standard data connection products on these platforms. So you go to Zapier, you go to IFTTT, and you can say, show me all the connections for Google Calendar. So what we've done, and this is another beta program that we will have coming up, Journyx is going to run that beta program with our first Zap, that's what it's called, to connect our suggestions with Google Calendar. We have the Exchange calendar through the Azure authentication. Now we're offering the Google Calendar connection through Zapier. And we're going to run that beta program after we release Journyx version 11.5, which is coming very soon. You will see announcements for that very soon. The nice thing about these task automation platforms is that end users without any technical skills can go, grab a standard data connection. So they can go say, give me the Zap that connects Journyx suggestions with Google Calendar. They can also edit them. So if they don't like, the date that's coming in, or, they want to change up the field mapping, they can do that. And they can also create new Zaps to kind of customize the way the data comes in. And they don't need any technical skills to do it. It's real straightforward, just end users, regular business users can use that. And there are a ton of, like I said, popular third-party apps out there on the Zapier framework. So we are going to be providing more information very soon, so watch for announcements, and we'll tell you about a little bit more about how the Zapier connections work, something you might want to provide to your IT department. And we'll do this as we ask you guys if you would like to beta test. So that wraps up my portion. I think Carrie has some closing remarks.
Great, thank you, Meredith. So yeah, and I can actually vouch for the Exchange integration, which, as Meredith mentioned, is available now in version 11. I use it on a daily basis because I rely heavily on my Outlook calendar to schedule not only meetings but tasks, and it has reduced the amount of time that it takes for me to fill out my timesheet dramatically. It takes minutes now, so that's a really great tool. And having tried out the Chrome timer, the Journyx timer as well, that is a really cool little tool to use, and it actually helps you to get more accurate times on the tasks that you're doing. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in Exchange, you can email sales, you can call us, you can email your account manager. And also, if you're interested in joining the beta as Meredith for the Chrome Journyx timer Chrome extension, or for Zapier, as Meredith mentioned, we will be sending out a link very soon to allow you to sign up for that beta. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, and please feel free to pop those into the questions box in GoToWebinar, and we will go into, we have a couple of questions, I believe, here that we can ask. We have one. So we're wanting to know if Journyx has the ability to integrate with QBite, which is an accounting system, to link creation and inactivation of projects. Brian, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I've just personally not heard of QBite before, but either through our API or through our professional services team, we certainly could better understand the integration requirements and come up with a solution for you guys. So I would suggest maybe if you reach out to your account manager, then they can arrange further discussion around that.
Great, thank you so much, Brian. I don't see any other questions. However, you are free to follow up with either Brian or via the sales email that you see here. You can follow up with your account manager and ask them questions about anything that you saw here in the webinar. And then once the recording is available, we will be sending this out to everyone. So be on the lookout for that, and for the sign up to for the beta for our upcoming tools. Thank you very much for coming today, and have a great rest of your day.